The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
What's up, gang, and welcome into UFC Best Bets for this week. It is April 15th is going to be Saturday. The main card, UFC Fight Night, will take place in Kansas City, Missouri. The former featherweight king himself, Max Holloway, traveling from Hawaii to Kansas City to take on England's Arnold Allen in a crucial 145-pound fight for the division and also for Max himself. Can't wait to get into that main event with my partner, as always, Ian Parker, who I saw in Miami. We had a good time. We enjoyed UFC 287, and now we are right back to work for UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. How are you feeling about this card, Mr. Parker?
You know what? This card is sneaky good, kind of flying under the radar besides the main event. A lot of tight matchups. You know, the odds reflect that. And a lot of the odds are screaming that we're going to see some three-round wars here. So I'm excited to get into it. We're going to have a bounce back from last week.
I completely agree, man. Very, very sneaky good card. But before we get into it, let's go back and look at UFC 287, how we performed at UFC 287. We took a few totals there rather than sides. And how did you feel about what we saw down there in Miami?
Well, you know what? March we were hot. In April we started off not. You know, I was very surprised at some of these. I definitely thought Yanez Font was going to go the distance. Rob Font, we talked about him being a live dog, and my was he ever, shutting the lights out on Yanez. Israel Adesanya, you know, that overhand right, we saw it in the first round of their first fight. Everyone kept saying if he had 10 more seconds, the fight would be done. Well, he had 40 more seconds, and he got the job done there. Burns Masvidal, to me, was the easiest one over 1.5. Luana Pinheiro, that one, we kind of stuck by. That could have gone either which way. And Chris Curtis, I know he doesn't feel that he lost. That was a tough fight. That headbutt definitely swung things around. We went 2-3 there, and the parlay. Yet again, that has been my Achilles heel. I am looking to break that streak this week.
Yeah, which we have plenty of confidence that you will. Yeah, Rob Font, man, I wish we just would have gone out on a limb and taken him as a dog. I liked him at plus money, but not enough to make him an official bet. And of course, hindsight's always 20/20. Adrian Yanez is very, very talented, very dangerous. We did not have a great UFC 287. You know who did? Drake, for once, finally. I feel like Drake has lost a lot when we talk about him on this show, but hey, there you go. Drake hitting big in 287. Congrats to him. And we move on. We move on to UFC Fight Night this weekend. Again, from Kansas City, a fun main event. Max Holloway taking on Arnold Allen, who it's an interesting one, man, because Arnold Allen, I feel like if you've been betting Arnold Allen across the course of his UFC career, you've obviously been very, very happy. This guy's done nothing but win, and he really has not been that big of a favorite. He has been cashing at about even odds a lot, and you can see that he's the underdog here against Max Holloway in that main event. It's a 6-fight main card starting at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. You can see it on ESPN Plus and the mothership, the big network, ESPN cable channel. So you can watch on either one. But we got plenty of good fights to talk about. Like you said, sneaky good card. Dustin Jacoby is interesting. Billy Q is a favorite of the show. Tanner Bozer and Ian Q Talaba. That's an interesting fight. Chris Gutierrez, also very, very interesting fight. He's taking on a ranked opponent in Pedro Munoz. But let's go back to that main event. And it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating. Here we are, Max Holloway. He's only 31 years old, but sort of at a career crossroads here. Obviously has the 3 losses to Alexander Volkanovski. The last one was the most definitive of their trilogy, not in Max's favor. He's taken a lot of damage. Arnold Allen, hard hitter, but does he have the tools to keep up with Max Holloway? Plus 155. Super interested, man. Break this one down for me. What do you got?
You know, I like the interview that you did with Max Holloway. It kind of showed where he was at mentally. Still saying that he's better than Alexander Volkanovski. Now, based on, you know, what we've seen, I don't necessarily agree with him. However, Holloway, other than the Volkanovski fights, has had tremendous success. We saw it against Yair Rodriguez. He looked fantastic. We saw it against Calvin Kattar, where he put on one of the most unreal performances probably in the sport's history with the amount of strikes thrown. Holloway still has it in him. He is still young. Yes, he's taken damage per se, but he's fighting someone in Arnold Allen where I think between the two, Holloway's got more ways to win. We've seen Holloway use his jiu-jitsu skills before. Although he calls himself the best boxer in the UFC, he likes to stand up. The question is, can he get through the onslaught of Arnold Allen early on with those hooks? Against Dan Hooker, Arnold Allen pushed forward. He's got great power, and we know he's very skilled. I have a hard time, though, betting on these guys that are on the up and up against someone like Holloway, because I don't think Holloway is what the casual fans will call washed. He doesn't seem washed to me. He can still fight the top level, and if you're only losing to Volkanovski, you're pretty damn good. With Arnold Allen here, he's not fought anyone like a Max Holloway, and listen, his win over Calvin Kattar got injured. However, that round one, he looked phenomenal. The question is, can he either put Holloway out early, because to me that's the only way he wins here, or what is Arnold Allen's gas tank like in rounds 4 and 5, where we know Holloway tends to get better? So for that reason, I'm going with Max Holloway here at these numbers. I think if it gets a little bit higher, you have to maybe look at the over or look at it go in the distance. I just don't see Holloway being put away by anybody in this division. If Volk couldn't do it, I don't think Allen does it. I think win or lose, this is a great test and litmus test for Allen. Even if he loses, I still see him as a future champ. However, for me, I'm on the Blessed Express this week. I'm going with Max Holloway.
Well, I like what you said there, that you like him at minus 180, but if it starts to creep up a little higher, maybe you take a look at the total. And also, let's take a look at method of victory here, because it seems like you do feel pretty strongly about, hey, if Arnold Allen's going to get the win, probably going to get it by a finish. Maybe you like, if you like Arnold Allen, maybe you do sprinkle a little bit on that plus 600. That's a nice little number, although obviously we know how difficult it is to finish Max Holloway. Do any of these method of victory odds stand out to you, Ian?
You know, the other one, it's kind of interesting. Max Holloway to win by decision does stick out. But again, I don't know what Allen's gas tank is going to look like at 4 and 5. This is a guy who throws with a lot of power behind each shot. And when you do that over the rounds, that lactic acid could build up. You could tire out. Even Max Holloway at finish in the later rounds, or Allen early on. All those kind of stick out to me. But the numbers are low enough for me to take Max Holloway. So that's where I'm going to go there.
Okay, so we're taking Max Holloway minus 180 to keep the train going. I mean, this guy has not lost to anybody outside of Alex Volkanovski and Dustin Poirier over the last, 5-6 years. Very, very, very good resume. But a big fight, big main event here against Arnold Allen. Let's go to the co-main event. You got Billy Q, who is, as I mentioned, a favorite of this show. I feel like we've taken Billy Q a lot here to pretty good success. Taking on a dangerous guy, though, in Edson Barboza, man. And this, I'll be honest, Ian, this one just feels like we want to take Billy Q, but I'm scared. I'm scared, man. Not just because Edson Barboza is just so dangerous, but he also needs a win. This guy has a 3-7 record in his last 10, but those are against stellar competition. Help me out here, man. I feel like just history says we're going to take Billy Q in this spot, but am I right to be a little hesitant on this one?
You know what? When I get to surprise you with us doing the show as long as we've had, that makes me happy, because I'm not going to go Billy Q in this fight. There's two ways I think to bet this fight. One, I actually like the odds on Edson Barboza here, and I'm going to tell you why. And once I tell you this, your ears might perk up and be like, all right, you know what? It kind of makes sense. What is Edson Barboza best known for? His kicks. We know this. However, where he's been really thriving is those calf kicks. Now, if he throws it high, Billy Q will grab it, put him on the ground, and that's where Billy Q can kind of take the blueprint of Bryce Mitchell and grind out a win over Barboza. But if Barboza throws it low and attacks the calf, and Billy's not able to catch it, we may see a very similar fight to how Billy Q fought against Shane Burgos, where he was fighting rounds 2 and 3 essentially on one leg. Now, we know you're not going to out-heart Billy Q. It's impossible. This dude doesn't stop. He doesn't get finished. He could bleed out of every single spot in his body, and he will still come forward and bring the fight to you. So here's how I look at this fight. You either take Edson Barboza at underdog odds. If Billy Q's legs are fresh and Barboza is not attacking that calf, you could then go Billy Q on a live bet rounds 2 and 3. But to start the fight, I'm going to go with Barboza. I think Billy Q is a little too susceptible to those calf kicks, and he's very hittable. I'm going with Barboza here. But like I said, taking Billy Q live rounds 2 and 3, I completely would do it as well.
Ian, with the unintentional humor, man. Some of the way that you describe things. He can bleed out of any spot in his body, but you ain't going to stop him. Billy Q, well, yes, he is extremely tough. And you know what? I like this pick, man, because I think it just shows that we don't fall into habits here. Every fight is different from the one before. We play the odds as they come out. And as much as we love Billy Q and we think that there's been value on him consistently over the course of his UFC career, we like Barboza here because of the matchup, because of maybe the value there on that plus 155. So great pick there. Let's take a look at the rest of the main card. As you mentioned, very, very strong main card. I'll let you run through the rest of your picks. And then I believe we've got you, that will lead us to your prop of the night. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Dustin Jacoby, Azamat Murzakanov. You know, this fight's very interesting. I think this fits really well into Jacoby's style, his pace. And after that split decision loss to Khalil Roundtree, I think he comes back and gets it done. However, Azamat, when he's won, it's been in round 3, very durable. I like this bet, the fight just to start to round 3. Doesn't matter who's winning. Both guys going to fight from a distance. Let's go there. Tanner Boser making his light heavyweight debut against Ion Cutelaba. Listen, Cutelaba is an absolute maniac. We know this. But he also doesn't really fight all that smart. And I think Boser's going to be the better athlete here. If he can avoid the takedowns of Cutelaba and stays on the feet, I think the speed of Boser may surprise people. And now leading into the prop of the night, Pedro Munoz and Chris Gutierrez. Look, I like Gutierrez. At this number, minus 200, you know that's my threshold, okay? I think Gutierrez is on the way up as Pedro Munoz is kind of staying stagnant. We know this is a guy who's excellent on the ground, but he likes to strike. But Gutierrez is showing us something here. He's showing that you may not know him as a popular guy, but this guy can fight. I think this fight's going to go the distance. So our prop of the night this week is going to be Chris Gutierrez to win by decision at plus 110. So we're going to get back to those plus odds, okay? Last week, Ignacio Bahamondes inside the distance didn't work. This week, I think Gutierrez is going to outpoint Munoz, and that's going to be our play there.
All right, and as you saw on that graphic there, Clay Guida at 41 years young is going to be kicking off the main card against Rafa Garcia. Interesting fight, man, because you have liked Clay Guida in the past. You liked him in his last fight against Scott Holtzman. Clay, you know, you see that number 41 next to his name and you start to be a little hesitant, but hey, you're getting good odds here, plus 220 here on Clay Guida. Are we interested at all on a Clay Guida underdog bet against Rafa Garcia, who is 3-3 in the UFC?
Oh, yes, I am. And I'm going to tell you exactly why here. Number one, when I look at Guida, I do not look at his age because he's got the cardio of a 21-year-old, okay? And that has not changed. Until Clay Guida starts slowing down, there's no reason to believe that that age is going to take a toll on him because he really hasn't shown it. He is fighting someone, Rafa Garcia, who's an absolute dog, who always gets into a real crazy fight back and forth. But he tends to lean on his wrestling when he gets tagged. I don't see him out-wrestling Guida here. He's certainly not going to out-cardio Clay Guida here. And at these numbers, until Garcia goes out there and dominates someone in the top 15 and picks a way to win, not just kind of, oh, I'm going to stick to this because I don't know what else to really do here. Against Guida, it's tough. Guida is a miserable matchup for most people because what he lacks in technique, he excels in being a Tasmanian devil. Okay, we saw it against Leandro Santos. We saw it against Scott Holtzman. His hands have gotten better. It's funny, at age 41, he continues to be a student of the game. I think Guida at this number as an underdog, he's alive. That cardio is going to be miserable for Garcia. And I think Guida takes over in rounds 2 and 3 and gets it done.
It's so true, man. I mean, 41 sometimes is a red flag, but for Clay Guida, it has not been, man. He looks the same, basically, and perhaps to your point, even better than when he was 35. And just to give you an idea, though, of how long this guy has been around, let's take it back to 1981, when Clay Guida was born. I'm not too far off of this, man. I'm 1985. Donkey Kong was released, and the world is introduced to Mario. Well, that's a fun one. MTV launches and plays its first music video. My parents didn't believe in cable, so I was watching just like 6 channels, which is like a turn dial on my television. Metallica was formed in 1981. A gallon of gas was $1.31. That is actually really depressing. Let's not bring that up. And Post-it notes and the computer mouse debuted. Post-it notes. Post-it notes in 1981. I would have thought that they would have been around a little bit longer. Do you use Post-it notes, Ian?
Yeah, you know what? I used to use Post-it notes all the time. I was the guy that had them literally everywhere on my desk, and even when I was done with them, I wouldn't throw them away. So, yeah, 1981. I would have thought it was a little bit longer than that too, but hey, I like those Post-it notes.
If I would have had odds on Ian Parker being a Post-it note guy, it would have been like minus 500, dude. You scream Post-it note guy, so I would have hit.
I do scream Post-it notes. I do. I do.
All right, let's take a look at this UFC Fight Night prelim card. We've gone through the main card, but the prelims are actually pretty strong as well. What do you got for the prelims?
Well, looking at my first Post-it note, I got Bill Algeo here. You know what? That minus 200 number makes a lot of sense, and I think he is better than TJ Brown everywhere. Even off his back, we've seen judges hopefully favor damage. Off his back, he can do that. Do not blink at this fight. Whatever Brandon Royval is fighting, that is must-watch TV. I think that fight does not go the distance. Zach Cummings, Ed Herman. You read that right, Brett. That is Ed Herman I'm taking. Zach Cummings had a long layoff, talking about retirement, and Ed Herman just loves to fight. So I'm taking a shot there. I like Jillian Robertson here going down in weight. I think she'll be the stronger, more physical fighter. I also think her ground game is going to be too much for Rodriguez. Lando Venata versus Zellhuber. This is Zellhuber's chance right now to get a good name on his resume. He underperformed against Trey Ogden. I think Zellhuber comes out a little bit more active here, gets it done. Was really impressed with Bruna Brazil in the Contender Series, and Denise Gomes does not have the best defense. I'm going Brazil. I'm going to go with Bolanos there. And last but not least, Lucy Pudilova against Jocelyn Edwards. Might not be the most exciting fight, but if Pudilova gets this fight to the ground, that's where she gets it done.
All right, well, you mentioned the parlay a little earlier, man, and we've been close. We have been right there with the parlay all year. We're about to turn that around in a big way. Where are we going with the parlay on Saturday?
This one, I took a little bit of a different approach. Being that we're being given all these options, I'm playing it a little bit safer. We're still getting plus 277. So, Barboza, Billy Q, over 1.5 rounds. Jacoby Murzakanov, the fight just to get through round 1, start round 2. Bozer and Kutalaba. I know that one's a little bit of a head scratcher, but we've seen Kutalaba been a little more hesitant, and Bozer's not going to rush in. That one also to start round 2. And the anchor, Chris Gutierrez, just to get it done on the money line, plus 277 for that payout.
All right, and like you said, April did not get off to quite the start we wanted, but we're going to turn that around real quick. Where are we going with the best bets this weekend?
We are going to start off with the Bless Express. I'm going Max Holloway here. It's very, not all that often you get him under minus 200 against someone other than of Alex Volkanovski when he's the underdog. I think Holloway gets it done in the later rounds. Jacoby Murzakanov. Now, in the parlay, it's to start round 2. Here, it's to start round 3. I think both guys are going to really fight from a distance. Murzakanov may try to get into the clinch. Jacoby's very resilient. Let's get that one to start round 3. I'm going to play this at my threshold, Brett. You know, minus 200. I don't go above that. I just don't see Bill Algeo losing to TJ Brown here. Royval, Nicolau. I like Nicolau to win the fight, but he was at minus 205. I really didn't want to have 2 bets that high. But with Royval, he's kill or be killed. This fight, I don't think is going the distance. And last but not least, I'm going with the jiu-jitsu side of Jillian Robertson against Pierre Rodriguez. We saw Rodriguez when she fought Kay Hansen, was able to be controlled on the ground. Robertson always looks for the chokes. I'm going to take her here, and that's going to be our 5 plays and best bets for the week.
Yeah, man. Sometimes we talk about card construction, and look, the UFC knows what they're doing. So hey, don't take my word for it. But Royval and Nicolau, can we get that like a co-main event? You could put that as that is a heck of a fun fight.
Yeah.
And Ian Parker telling us it is not going to go the distance. I would tend to agree. Both those guys with just a lot of finishing ability, creativeness. Love that fight. Cannot wait to watch that fight. So make sure you tune into ESPN Plus for that one. All right, so I believe one more business of order, Ian, and that is our long shot parlay of the weekend. It is my favorite thing about this show. Show me those odds, baby. Where are we going this week?
You know, this week's interesting. I feel like there's a lot of live dogs here. I don't think that this is too much of a reach. I'm going to go Barboza over Billy Q. Again, if he is able to land those calf kicks early, it's not that Billy Q is not capable of doing this here. He very much is, and that's why he's the favorite. But we saw against Shane Burgos, if you take out those legs, you don't have that much power, and Barboza's movement can cause trouble. Bozer, Kutalaba, I think that fight's really a coin flip, so I'll take the plus odds there. Clay Guida, prove me right. Let's see that cardio against Rafa Garcia. I'm going Ed Herdman here. I don't like the talk of Zach Cummings talking about retirement off a 2-year or 3-year layoff. And then we're going to go with Daniel Zahuber to turn that around. Very hyped after the Contender Series. Lost last time, getting against Venata, who doesn't really do a whole lot. At plus 8481. Not a bad number here, Brett. I'm hoping this is the first one that we hit of the year.
Pretty nice number, plus 8481. So I really have only one thing left to ask you, and that is why did the Post-it note call the cops, Ian?
Oh boy, why?
He was in a sticky situation. That's it for UFC Fight Night Best Bets. Thank you for tuning into the show. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the card, and we will see you next week for a heavyweight main event. We'll be talking about it from a gambling perspective as always. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. See you next week.
That was amazing.